All right, so here's what I came up with on this. If you're down, the the nightmare part of this is the backer. So you've got this MDF trying to make it as thin as possible, whatever. But anytime you're mixing, or anytime you're incorporating organics into this whole thing, the instability of it. They want it to be painted completely before it goes over there, and it's going to get chipped and dinged. But the major problem is making these little pieces that have to wrap around this whole thing. And the whole reason why you're doing this is cosmetically, you're trying to create the appearance of thickness. And the fact that you're doing this kludgy thing with these hat channels, the only reason why they're doing this is to buy space for cabling. So you're kind of going a long way around for doing that, and it's it's pretty straightforward and stuff. But this is also kind of the ideas of how you would try to make this void if you didn't know how to scribe and bend metal like we do. So I'm saying that um, we just get rid of all of this. And since we would already be spending all of our time trying to make these little bendy things perfectly around, and we'd have to label them, and the amount of all of those little pieces being put all the way around, um, and all of this stuff is stuff that opens up possibilities and variables. So what we need to do is get rid of all these variables and keep it simple, get rid of as many moving pieces as possible. So that's why I'm thinking we do what we do best. So look, get out of the way. All right, so what we do is just break down. So what I did is I put together some of the hexes that they want, the sizes, keeping their 1/8 inch apart. So I guess they're looking for a glow. Keeping the way they have it mounted with a pressure fit, that's fine. We'll just do our bend and we slide on a piece. But here's what I'm proposing, and kind of radical, or throw it on its head, whatever, is we just go ahead and make blade signs. So what they're saying is they want 1.5 inches in all the way around. And you can see where with the 1.5 inches in, it gets pretty thin. So I'm seeing with the MDF, these thin points. Let's see, where is it? Right here. Yeah, see, this would be MDF right here, and that would just snap right off because they would want the 1.5 inches in, 1.5 inches in, all the way around. So that's not good. Or you'd have to make it into a separate piece. But if this is just a single hexagon, that'd be kind of a pain in the butt. And again, you'd be chasing this with that metal flash, and they want all the way around. So we just resign ourselves to just spending the time to route the pieces needed. But you can see here where this would be basically 1.5 inch thick blade sign. This is what we do to make a blade sign. It'd be 3/4 inch flange, and it would be the 1.5 inch they want, or we'd adjust it to make sure it would be overall. But I just real quick here, and it's 1.5 inches in, and we go ahead and just route all the little pieces here and keep each section as its own section, label it off, and you can see where we'll have the strength. But what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put the backer. What this does is eliminate that hat track, and it allows us to have access directly, and we can nail this thing directly to the wall. So our unit here would just be one piece. We'd have Lord's Dawn face with aluminum 090 on the front. That would allow us to attach our little doohickeys here. Let's see, that would be our mounting point here for the brackets. They would mount right to that. We'd have that all already drilled in. And then on the face of this, it would have access points, so we could have controlled holes where we need them. And then that would allow us through, and we could put our mounting holes wherever we want. And then again, what they're looking for is a cavity to run wiring. So that's what we've already done, is we have our own built-in wiring. The other part is, if you kind of look at what they're expecting from this right off the bat, performance-wise, we ran into this with Oshkosh, but fire performance, materials shall be non-combustible. Last time I checked, MDF can catch fire, and I understand that they have fire rated. So why don't we just eliminate that? So doing this, we would just create these one piece things. And then what's really great about that is that whole thing will go as one unit to paint. It can get painted white. And even if the hex, isn't even on there, the piece itself will look kind of cool, just a nice modular one piece. And then each of these pieces then could butt up against, very nicely against other pieces. And that way we're not dealing with this hat track that we have to make sure is completely lined and it's moving around. And then you have the organic, MDF sort of, is it crooked or not? Whereas we're fully in control of everything. And so I think that would be how I would approach this, is just making each of these mounting units as one. That way we can run our wiring. We'll have our strategic holes where we can just run wire through, and it's all awesome. It's all contained. We could do our do our LEDs in there and everything like they're saying. The other issue would be they've said that they want square corners. They kind of stipulated that. So sharp edges. So the two ways I would approach it would be, we've done this before with stop signs and stuff, but when you fold this in all as one piece, the flanges built in, you can see where this would be 090 and this would be 090. You have to deal with this gap. This is a void. So you're either bondoing the crap out of that, but obviously this is easier because it's one piece, but you got to get the bit has to get in there and everything. So there's a trade-off to this. Obviously there's always a trade-off to everything. The other part would be to make it into two pieces where we bend scribe one half of it and we bend it up into this piece here, and we bend up the other side into the other piece. And that way we're only dealing with two seams. They would be here and it would be there. And then we could decide what to do with those seams, whether or not we make them just deal with this little flat spot there, and then but these would be kind of bent. They'd be sort of rounded, but they'd be sharper. And then, or we could do this choice where you make one win and you make one lose, and then you can sand this off and you can approach that, because this would be welded on the inside. You could approach this as more of a trying to keep that sharp, a little bit of prep there. Or with some dialing in, it would take a little bit of practice. We might have to do a couple testers and burn a couple, but this could be laid out in one piece. I have done stop signs, 8-sided, obviously, in one piece, but you lose a little bit every time, and every one of them gets a little bit funkier. So I'd have to do a couple of these just to kind of get it dialed in. But theoretically, we could go around and have a bent, but just slightly rounded, but a semi-sharp bend there, and then just deal with this one side. And then the face itself would be Lord's Dawn later, after you bend all the pieces together. So you'll have it would be a two-part system, a few more moving parts than this. Or you go this way and you have to deal with this all the way around. Each of these seams would have to be closed up somehow. I'd say either a lot of bondoing, or they won't be happy with the fact that that's not going to be sharp. I don't know what they mean by sharp. But for us, this would be the sharpest method. And also the faces could be sent out if they do have to be lasered, like it says it has to be lasered. If that's the case, it has to be lasered when we send it out, and then the faces could all come back and then be put on to modular. This is one size fits all, and then we could just send out the flat 090 faces, just ship them out as frisbee discs, flat pack somewhere, and then they all come back with their laser, and then we can just go ahead and start lordsing to frames like crazy and be done with it. So there is that option. So that's how I would approach it on this. That way you're only dealing with 090 on the face of this and 090 on the back. Weight wise, you're probably less weight than MDF. You're not dealing with track. You're not dealing with MDF. You're not dealing with broken, frizzy edges and painting, and you know, that kind of stuff, more rough and tumble, more straightforward. But it will be more, you know, just a lot of work, just a lot of bending and putting together. But it's what our guys know, and they just turn on the stereo and just do it. So, and it's approachable by, you know, chunk by chunk by chunk. We can lay it out easier and have full control over everything, you know, as far as what goes into the router and what comes out. So that's kind of how I'd approach it. Maybe that will help you kind of figure out how to put it in there. But yeah, anyway, so it'll just kind of attach that way right on the wall, and it's about as straightforward as it gets. Hope that helps.